When I was trying to become a freelance illustrator, I was completely obsessed with reaching this goal. In my head, I knew that it was the only option for me. Whether that was true or not is up to debate. I had heard some of the aspects of becoming a full-time freelancer, but it wasn't until I actually started quote unquote making it that I actually had to reckon with what these pros and cons meant for my career and for my life. If you're new here, hi, I'm Gabbie. I have been a full-time artist for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. If you're curious about what I'm working on in the B-roll here, I am illustrating my September sticker for my Patreon monthly sticker club. And I just wanted to chat a little bit about a few things I wish I knew before I became a full-time artist. None of these are complete pros and none of them are complete cons. If you're watching this and considering taking the plunge into a career in art, I want you to know that I'm not trying to sway you in one way or another. I'm just sharing my experiences, and hopefully hearing my perspective would help you get a better idea on if this is right for you, or if a different career in the arts would be better, or if this is exactly perfect for you. And just to clarify what career I'm exactly talking about, my career is a full-time freelance illustrator and author who works in publishing. I also sell my art online and at in-person events, and I post my work on social media. And that's my career in art. There are tons of different ways to have a career in the arts. I'm simply sharing my experiences with what I do. Ultimately, I'm very happy with my career, but it definitely took some learning on how to balance all of the different highs and lows of what this career can offer you. Okay, so to start, it is all on you. And I've heard this said a lot. It's all on you. But let's dig into that a little more because I think this is such an amazing double-edged sword. So let's start with the pros. It's all on me. I can take vacations, I can take sick days, I can take whatever, whenever I want. There's no boss that I have to explain myself to as long as the work I need to do is getting done. I get to work from home, I get to spend tons of time with my husband and my pets, and I get to run the business that I want to run. So if I decide I want to go to more conventions and expos, I do it. If I decide that I hate making TikToks, I stop doing it. And this can help or hurt my business, but at the end of the day, it's up to me and no one else to decide what I'm passionate about doing and what can get cut from my business plan. For example, I decided earlier this year that I was getting burnt out on short form content and I wanted to be able to connect with an audience in a longer, more nuanced manner. So I started YouTube, and now I'm talking about topics I'm passionate about in a longer, more nuanced manner, like in this video. So those are all honestly pretty great. I love those pros for me, but there are some pretty serious cons. So the major con is it's all on me. Every win is on me, but every loss is on me too. I can take as many vacation or sick days as I want, but if they mess with my work schedule, all the backfire is my problem. All the scrambling, all the cramming, that's all on me. There's no boss to explain myself to because I am the boss. And I find that I can be a pretty mean boss to myself. You quit the 9 to 5 working for someone else, and then you find yourself working 24/7 for yourself. I struggle with giving myself guilt-free free time. So for example, I will take an afternoon off to relax. I'm so stressed. I just need, a few hours to do whatever I want to do. I take that time off. I try to relax, and then I feel guilty that I didn't accomplish enough in that day. So I'm not relaxed during my relaxing time. The time is wasted, I'm not relaxed, and I got no work done, which is kind of silly. But my time is my money. And every moment I spend sitting on the couch or sleeping late is time I, in my head, could be making social media posts or making new products, working on projects, blah, 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 blah. Even within working, sometimes I have projects that really need to be done, but for some reason or another, I'm just not in the mood to work on them. I can procrastinate endlessly by finding other work or making up other work for myself to mess around with and tell myself that I'm still working, but I'm simply working on the wrong thing. As well as this, every financial risk that I take on a new product or a new project is on me, and every new venture that fails is on me. So in conclusion, this is an amazing perk, But if you're like me and you struggle with executive dysfunction, it can be dangerous. If you're considering this career, I would highly encourage you to reflect on how well you work when no one is looking over your shoulder, because the reality is that's what the majority of this job is. And that sort of segues into my next thing I wish I knew. There's no one looking over your shoulder, and honestly, that can lead into quite a bit of loneliness, or at least it has in my experience. If your career looks anything like mine, you'll be spending tons of time alone. And this depends, of course. I'm freelance, I work for myself. Some artists do work in large groups like in animation or concept art, or other freelancers rent studio space in communal studios. But currently, I do 95% of my work in my home studio alone. So let's start with the cons this time instead of the pros. I don't really need to tell you that being alone can be lonely. It is a very isolating career, and sometimes I find myself starved for connection. I have my husband and my pets who are lovely, but my partner works a 9 to 5, so from 9 to 5, I'm alone, and I think everybody just needs to get out at some point. Even me, and I would consider myself a mega homebody. I love being at home. I don't really like going out, but I just get to the point in the week where I am just like itching to get out of the house and do literally anything. I also live in rural Ohio, and I'm from Maryland originally, and I just found I haven't made a lot of friends out here, or maybe any friends. But yeah, being alone is lonely. Who would have thought? So that can really put a wrench in just like my mental health and my life, I guess. But the pros of this one might actually surprise you a little bit. And it surprised me, but I find that I am a better friend in my personal life. So when I was working, in-person jobs with coworkers, I was working in a way more social environment, and I found myself pretty socially fulfilled every day, just talking with my coworkers, chatting around the water cooler, doing whatever. I would talk to people all day, and then I would get home and my social battery would be completely burnt out, and I would probably just sit in front of the TV and go to bed. But working alone, I find myself reaching out to people I love more often. I will drop a text asking how they're doing. I'll let someone know I'm thinking about them. I will FaceTime people and just catch up on their lives. I've always been pretty bad at keeping up with people, and I definitely wouldn't say that I'm perfect now, but I have seen an improvement working alone just in how I keep up with people and let them know I care. And I honestly really like that. Another pro of loneliness is that I get so excited to go to in-person illustration events. I'm actually going to Small Press Expo in Bethesda this weekend. If you're local to Maryland, I'd love to see you. And I am so stinking excited about it. These events can be super draining and exhausting, but I find myself so energized going to these. The excitement of going, and then all of the creative energy that I get when I come home. I get to meet new artists. I get to catch up with people that I've seen at different cons who run in the same circles as me. I get to meet new people who are excited about art. It's just the best, and I find that I don't burn out as much because I'm just so excited to get out of the house and talk to people, which is arguably pretty funny, but you know what I'm saying. So in conclusion on this point, loneliness is definitely hard, but I have always sort of been a social loner, I call myself. I love talking to people, but I also really value like my alone time and my recharging time. I guess you would call that it being an ambivert. Or if not even, I'm not an introvert and I'm not an extrovert, I would say. I would really encourage you to think carefully about your personal social needs and try to incorporate them into your career goals, because it's something I definitely didn't think about much until I started doing this. But looking back, I wish that I had set up more of a support system earlier on. I find that where I'm at now, I, have really great friends and I have made connections with other artists. But in the beginning, I was definitely quite lonely. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the concept of performing as an artist. This is definitely directed more at the social media aspect of my job. And I know you don't need a social media presence to be successful in art. Again, take from this what you will. But for me, personally, it's been a big part of what I do for a long time, and I imagine it's going to keep being a part of my career for my at least 5-year business plan. So let's talk about the pros, since we started with the cons on the last one. I absolutely love connecting with my audience. Every like, every comment, every, share or whatever social media I'm on, I truly take to heart. It is so insanely humbling that even one stranger would enjoy my work enough to engage with it. That is so exhilarating to me, and it makes me really happy to share what I do. And I've heard a lot of artists talk about how they just want to make art for themselves, and that's amazing. I feel like it's sort of taboo to say this. I love making art for me, but I also find a lot of joy in making art for other people as well. Ever since I was a kid, doing commissions in the classroom or drawing birthday cards for my family, I loved seeing how my art interacts with people. Once you make something and hand it away, either physically or digitally, people engage with it, and it is totally divorced from my perspective or whatever I thought about going into it. It is just a person engaging with what I do. And I think that's super cool. Making art for other people also pushes me way out of my comfort zone. Because if I was really just making art for me, I would probably just be drawing pretty ladies at the 3/4 view and full sketchbook pages of moss, not to like put myself on blast. But making art with an audience in mind has made me create things that I am truly so happy with, and I'm not sure that I would have done otherwise. There's obviously a balance you need to strike between creating for yourself and creating for others, though. So let's turn to some of the cons. The biggest one I would say is performance anxiety. I can get so in my head. Will my audience like this? Will this post flop? What can I do to attract the most attention? It can be a really bad negative feedback loop if you let yourself get consumed by it. Every like, every comment, every share, I take to heart. Negative comments will come, and it is a part of the territory of being on the internet. I'm really lucky to not have had horribly bad experiences online, but I have had negative comments, and they sit with me longer than I'd like to admit. Comments about my art, comments about my face, my body, my voice, etc., etc. They can really build into bad anxiety, and I already struggle with anxiety regularly. It can make it debilitating, and it can make it hard to post anything at all. Combine that with the anxiety of, I haven't posted in X amount of days and now I'll be punished by the algorithm because I'm not a regular poster, blah, 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 blah. It makes it even worse. You can get sucked into what you think your audience wants, and half the time you'll be totally wrong. I guess in conclusion on this one, I love making art with people in mind, and I love telling stories that I hope people resonate with. It makes my soul sing. But I also need to balance that external validation with what internally fulfills me. It's easy to fall into that validation changing you, so you become so different that you don't even remember why you started. I've struggled with all of this personally, and I've found that I really need to take regular steps back from my social medias and remind myself that I'm not a content machine. The numbers don't matter, and that even if everyone decided to unfollow me overnight, I would still make art. What I've found is that while social media posting can be really fun, there's no number on an account that will make you feel like a successful artist. I find myself constantly moving the goalposts of success on myself further and further and further, and I forget to appreciate all that I have now and how hard I've worked to be there. So I am going to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you so much for being here. If you've watched to the end of this video, thank you so incredibly much. If you would like to drop me a like and tell me what you think about this video, I would love to hear it. Are you a full-time artist? Do you want to be one? Did any of these points surprise you? Was there anything you think I missed? I'd love to chat more in the comments. This is like a wealth of a topic that could go on probably forever. If you'd like to support me further, I do have a Patreon, which is linked below, as well as my other social medias. And thank you again for being here, and I hope that you have a really great creative day, and I will catch up with you again soon. Bye!